that Washington performance, my goodness, Ryan. Now you expected a tough game. You like that doesn't surprise you what happened on Saturday night. I can't say that I watched the game in its entirety. I watched the intrigue in the fourth quarter, and this was a one-score win. I know they won by 10, but technically, with the unusual decision that Jimmy Lake made, I don't understand that. Somebody's got to run this by me, Ryan. If you don't trust your team to complete a 10-yard pass on fourth down with 2 minutes left on the clock, well, when you get the ball back, granted, it can't be assumed that you're going to get the ball back because you got to stop the other team. You're going to get the ball back with like 30 seconds left, having to drive the length of the field. You're going to have to complete a lot of passes. So if you can't trust them to complete a 10-yard pass on fourth down, then how do you think you're going to drive the length of the field 2 minutes later? I don't get it in 30 seconds.
Yeah, strange situation. And the Husky fans were furious. I mean, they were the ones that were left. Most of them had already left by that point, but the ones that were still there enduring the rain, they were furious. They were booing this guy. They were cussing this guy. I mean, it was a terrible scene. And it actually kind of reminded me of, I try to go to road games every year, and not all of them, obviously, but I try to get at least pick one or two. The Washington game is very easy for me because I live in Portland. But 2019, I went down to USC and saw the Ducks run it up on the Clay Helton Trojan team. And the Trojan fans were acting the same way to Clay Helton as the Husky fans were acting to Jimmy Lake last night or on Saturday night. It was wild. And then now the reports are that he's been suspended for this next game because of his altercation on the sideline. The whole thing's falling apart. I mean, it again, a very proud program, Washington. I grew up watching this team just completely obliterate the Ducks every year, go to national championship opportunities, or back in those days, play that Rose Bowl and have a great team, lead the conference and wins, and just absolutely to a point now where it's falling apart. And the fans are furious. I have friends, I have family members who are Husky alums, and they're furious. So it's not a good situation. The Ducks played the game that we thought they're going to play. I think this is a team that's not going to put a ton of points on the board. They're going to win games by possession or two and be very comfortable doing so. It did feel like they blew out the Huskies, and they only won by 10. So in the stadium, it felt like the Ducks had control. After that first quarter, they just gave away points, had an interception, almost a pick six, and then gave away a safety. So it was 9-3 in the first quarter, and it looked terrible for the Ducks. And then the Ducks just start rattling off score here, score there, and they were actually able to throw the ball a little bit. This was a horrible weather game, too. I mean, it might not have looked that bad on camera comparatively to other weather games, but in the stadium, it was top 5 worst game I've ever been to. It was just completely nonstop rain for the most part in the second half.
Yeah, it looked like that, but you can never get the feel for it. You have to actually be soaked for hours and hours to really appreciate that kind of situation. So what was your vantage point? Where were your seats?
Well, I had the good seats to begin with right up front, and then my boy was like, hey, everybody's moving out of here. Let's go underneath the cover. So we actually moved back under the cover. But of course, we're out here in Oregon. We have rain gear. We're double dipped. My son actually pulled the sweet move, which was the poncho underneath the rain jacket just for another extra layer and warmth. But it's just a weird situation. This is always a rivalry game. You can throw the records out. Washington and Oregon actively do not like each other. I don't know if there's ever a spot where there's another team that actively dislikes each other as much as this fan base. I mean, like I said, I go to road games. I had numerous fans literally tell me to F off right to my face, right as they're walking by me, or just flip me off right in my face. And I'm like, what? I'm here with my son. What are we doing here? These guys obviously don't have a lot else going on in their life, at least positivity. It's mind blowing. And then they were just all over it in the first half. I mean, I saw a full-on fight in the next. Husky fans just poured a beer right over on Duck fans' head, and they got jumped by other Duck fans. They're in kind of the Duck section. I mean, the attitudes were crazy. I think COVID last year spawned on a lot of this because they didn't get to have this game last year. There was so much animosity last year because the Huskies thought that they deserved to go, and the Ducks ended up going because of COVID and everything else. And it felt like it's just fever pitch. And then the game started, and the Huskies are just rolling. I mean, these Husky fans, the same ones that were cussing out the coach at the fourth quarter, were celebrating like little kids in the first quarter, thinking that they're going to get a blowout win against the Ducks. And then they literally couldn't score. I think they went 5 or 6 possessions in a row where they punted. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't throw the ball. The Ducks defense was all over the place. These fans were crazy.